What's up, homegrown filmmakers? Today we're talking about how to write strong dialogue, part 2. So last week I talked about conflict and why you need to have it in your dialogue scenes. If you'd like to see that video, then click up here or there's a link in the description below, however you want to get to it. But right now we are talking more about dialogue. And today we're talking about how to find the conflict in your characters for your dialogue scenes. So there are 3 pieces to a conflict-based dialogue scene. And the first one is motivation. Like I said in my last video, it's all in the setup. If you've taken the time to create complex characters with motivations and with faults, then it's usually pretty easy to find the conflict for your dialogue. What you need to do is ask this question for each character in the scene. What is the character trying to get out of the scene? What are the character's primary motivations? What do they want from each other? And where are they trying to get to? These motivations can be so varied and so specific that I have no hope of listing them out. But here's a few off the top of my head. A character wants to vent. A character wants to get out of the conversation. A character wants to convince the others of something. A character wants to get information. A character wants to come to a decision. A character wants permission to do something. Etc., and on it can go. Characters can even have multiple motivations going at the same time. They can even have conflicting motivations going on at the same time. It really depends on your story and your characters. But the important point here is that you ask this question, what are they trying to get out of the scene of every character? Once you have the answer to that question for every character, it's pretty easy to see the conflict. If character A is trying to convince character B of something and all character B wants is to get out of the conversation, then you have conflict. If we take a look at this iconic scene from The Princess Bride, it's easy to see how detailed and specific these motivations can get.
I know who you are. Your cruelty reveals everything. You're the dread pirate Roberts. Admit it.
With pride. What can I do for you?
You can die slowly, cut into 1,000 pieces.
Hardly complimentary, Your Highness. Why loose your venom on me?
You killed my love.
It's possible. I kill a lot of people. Who was this love of yours?
As we go through the scene, Buttercup's goal becomes apparent very quickly. She even clearly states what she wants.
You killed my love. Admit it.
But what do you think that Wesley is trying to get out of this dialogue? For that, you have to dig into the setup of the characters, and more specifically, the setup through Wesley's eyes, what he experienced. Wesley and Buttercup were deeply in love before he went out into the world to find his fortune so they could get married. He was captured by the dread pirate Roberts and presumed dead, but what actually happened was this.
Roberts decided something. He said, all right, Wesley, never had a valet, and tried this night. I'll most likely kill you in the morning. Roberts and I eventually became friends. So he took me to his cabin, told me his secret. I am not the dread pirate Roberts, he said. I inherited the ship from the previous dread pirate Roberts, just as you will inherit it from me. He left the ship and I have been Roberts ever since.
So Wesley comes back to claim his beloved Buttercup, only to find out that she is to marry Prince Humperdinck. Based on what he said, you can imagine how he feels.
When you found out he was gone, did you get engaged to your prince at the same hour, or did you wait a whole week out of respect for the dead?
Over the course of this scene, Wesley's goal becomes clear. He's hurt, and he wants her to admit that she never loved him and that she betrayed him for Prince Humperdinck. Because they have 2 different motivations in this conversation, they have conflict. That's what you need to be looking for. When you ask that question, what is this character trying to get out of the scene, and you ask that for each character, you find your conflict where their goals, where their motivations don't line up. Let's look at another scene. This is from the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie, The Curse of the Black Pearl.
They've taken her. They've taken Elizabeth.
Mr. Murtaugh, remove this man.
We have to hunt them down. We must save her. And where do you propose we start? If you have any information concerning my daughter, please share it.
That Jack Sparrow. He talked about the Black Pearl.
Mentioned it is more what he did.
Ask him where it is. Make a deal with him. He can lead us to it.
No. The pirates who invaded this fort left Sparrow locked in his cell. Ergo, they are not his allies. Governor, we will establish their most likely course and...
That's not good enough!
Mr. Turner, You are not a military man, you are not a sailor. You are a blacksmith. This is not the moment for rash actions. Do not make the mistake of thinking you are the only man here who cares for Elizabeth.
There are 5 speaking characters in this scene. Will Turner, Norrington, Governor Swan, and these 2 soldiers who have names, but I can never remember which one belongs to which. What's interesting about this scene is that these 3 characters have the same goal, find Elizabeth. And the 2 soldiers have the goal of being helpful to that goal, so to one degree or another, all 5 of these characters are in agreement. However, they all have a different approach to that goal, with secondary motivations stemming from their background, their status, and their personalities, causing conflict. We can see that Will's motivation running into the scene is to make it known that Elizabeth was taken and to stir up immediate action to go save her.
We have to hunt them down. We must save her.
Perhaps with the subconscious motivation that in doing so, he will become worthy of her in the eyes of society. Norrington is already aware of what happened and is approaching it rationally, trying to come up with a feasible plan.
Pirates who invaded this fort left Sparrow locked in his cell, ergo they are not his allies.
It becomes obvious he believes Will will only get in the way of him figuring out how to rescue Elizabeth. This probably has 2 motivations. 1, he thinks Will is rash and will only get himself into danger, and 2, he's probably jealous of Will and doesn't want him involved. Governor Swan is already well aware that his daughter is missing and he's very worried about her. He has no problem involving Will, but as a figure of state, he puts his trust in Norrington, the Navy, and the proper channels through which you stop bad guys. As for the 2 soldiers, the first one's motivation is an overt eagerness to prove he can be helpful. He's eager to make a good impression on his superiors, and so offers up a far-fetched idea.
Jack Sparrow. He talked about the Black Pearl.
The second soldier has more common sense and recognizes how far-fetched his friend's idea is, and so undercuts the idea's relevancy,
Mentioned it is more what it did.
causing a mini conflict between the 2 soldiers. 5 different characters, 5 different motivations colliding with each other. And again, I have to stress how much these motivations are coming from the characters and what was already there. It's not a last-minute thing, but a careful crafting of each character to have a unique personality and thought process. Because it's stemming from that organic conflict, every line stays true to character and reveals more to the audience about who these characters are. So, finding the motivation for each character in each dialogue scene will help you find the inherent conflict, or help you discover that there isn't conflict and you need to go back to the beginning and flesh out your characters a little bit more. Well, that's all I have for you guys this week. I hope it was helpful and it gave you more insight into how to write dialogue. Next week, I'll be talking about the second piece of a conflict-based dialogue scene. So if you'd like to watch that, hit subscribe below, click the little bell to make sure that you get notifications. I'm Annie Pulling Sweat, and I'm a homegrown filmmaker. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.